right, welcome everybody to another one of the live stream sessions. Today we are going through how to grow your business with KPIs. You'll see that just at the top of the screen there. Again, we're going through the Techstars Entrepreneurs Toolkit. The link to the entire toolkit is in the description of the video, so you can have a look down there if you want to have a look at even more. If you missed any of the previous sessions, they're up on our YouTube channel, or you can go back through all the videos yourself. For anybody who's new today, my name's Joseph Lanzillotta. I manage the Student Entrepreneurship Program for Tangent, Trinity's Ideas Workspace, and I'm just bringing a lot of content into the digital sphere so that you guys can get an introduction to some of the best practices that are out there and have an opportunity to ask some questions of me as we go through the session. You're more than welcome to comment in the chat section below or to the side, depending upon how you have it laid out. I try to answer questions as we go. I also hope that if you have a suggestion or a comment or a question, you can put it in there. Everything is helpful, so we grow as we go. So yeah, there's a few things we're going to be going through today. As I said, the topic is growing your business with KPIs. So we've done a few things that kind of lead up to this, but the idea is if you are starting a new business, or generally, I've looked through the session, if you are looking at this as something to set some key performance indicators in your life, that is what KPIs stand for, setting some goals and being able to measure your success along them, this can be applied to a lot of different things. So it's worth watching either way. I'm excited to go through it. I'm here to as much learn alongside you guys as be able to help because I've gone through some of these before. So we'll jump right into it. There's a lot to get through today, so we'll start with right at the top here. At this point, you must establish how you plan to measure your success and build value for your customers and your business. This part will look at the value and growth indicators and will help you understand how to apply them to your own business. As I said, I think it can apply to your business. It can also apply to anything you're trying to do in your life. If you have to set some goals and set some measurements for it, I think you can apply it to a wider variety of things. So we'll start out, as always, with watching the trailer just at the start. Also, as a bit of an indicator to me, if there are any issues with the audio, you can't hear things, let me know in the chat. I will follow up based on that. So we'll dive right in.
We're going to go through the process of finding the KPIs that matter for your company. And we're going to go through and first start out by revealing how a customer is made within your company. The number one way I see founding teams struggle pre-product, pre-revenue is a basic fundamental misunderstanding among the founders of who the customer is and what journey that customer takes on the road to giving you money. So this shows us how to map your customer journey. It's awesome to have a company that's working and you know why. It's awful to have a company that's not working and you don't know why. A lot of people think, okay, as long as I just have KPIs, we're golden. That's just part one. Part two is checking in on the KPIs. This is messy. I wish I could turn the switch on and the light would go on, but it doesn't work that way. I have to do a voodoo dance in the corner and eventually the light goes on.
Cool. So it's not just setting of KPIs of key performance indicators. It's very much going to be a iterative process of learning from them and growing as you go. The sessions we're going to go to, there are 6 of them today. Make progress with KPIs, learn the basics of metrics, review metrics to make progress, evolve the metrics you track, trust your gut, and find your KPI workshop. I will say at the end of this, there is a really good example of going through exactly a structured process. And then at the end, I'll just click through and I'll show you through the exercises, and the exercises map to what we're going to learn today. Again, you can go to the link in the description and find the Techstars toolkit, go to the KPIs workshop, and you can go right into the exercise and actually fill them out yourself. It does a really good job of breaking down how to set up your KPIs. So there's a lot to get through, as I said. If you guys have questions or comments, please pop them in the chat, and I will dive us right into part one without further ado. I just want to say hello to a few people who are back. Welcome back, Linda. Welcome back, Margaret. Welcome back, Joseph. I look forward to enjoying another session with you guys. So without further ado, into make progress with KPIs. You need to understand, track, and set goals to drive progress. This video will show you how to identify and select the key indicators that are critical for driving your business forward. You will also learn how these metrics help you to communicate and create shared understanding within your company and with investors. That's the key. With investors, if you can communicate with them and they can understand how you measure the success of your business, you're likely to do well. So, without further ado, here we go.
So today's purpose is to identify your key performance indicators by following your customer's journey so that you know what to grow during Techstars and beyond. So often when you're inside a company and you think about taking an idea, finding prospects, trying to get them into your company, turn them into customers, can often feel a lot like this. So you put your safety goggles on because entrepreneurship's a little bit dangerous sometimes. You're like, okay, we're going to knock down these dominoes, run these marketing campaigns, we'll try to get some attention from the market, try to get people to pay attention to us. That'll knock over a couple other things. We'll get some leads, we'll try to get those leads in the door. That'll knock a few more things off. Now we got the ball rolling internally with our delivery of the product. We try to get them, signed up, provisioned, onboarded. Try to get, find the little places where we didn't quite do it right, which then kicks off another thing, which whacks some consumer complaints. Got bodies flying, parachutes jumping, balls dropping, cans going over. At the end of the day, we're trying to figure out how the heck to make this business work, and early on, most of the time, all we get is a bunch of paint in our face. So this is very much what it's like to be in an early stage startup. The reality is, as your company scales, as you grow, the Rube Goldberg machine goes away a little bit. And notice here you can see in the background, this was not the first time they did this. If you want to see this whole thing, this is from OK Go. It's one of their fantastic videos. They did it in one take with one camera. Crazy. But building and scaling a company can feel like you're living inside of a Rube Goldberg machine. Should feel really simple to be like, can I just run an ad and get $1 million out the other end, please? But early on, you have to go through all that stuff that you just saw OK Go through. So today what we're going to try to do is make that Rube Goldberg machine a little bit more visible to you, gain a better understanding of how your business works by determining 2 to 3 KPIs you need to understand, track, and goal set to drive progress here and beyond. I first want to start out with some concepts because I think there's some important language here that's valuable to the discussion. And I came to know a lot of these concepts because my background, being an entrepreneur, building scalable companies, I've been on a couple journeys from literally 0 to 360 million in revenue in one company and 0 to successful IPO in another company. And throughout that process, what I realized was the degree to which you can understand your KPIs, which they don't just come from on high and magically appear to you, you have to work at it. But the degree to which you can understand those KPIs, it really, really can drive the success of your company. Okay, so let's talk about concepts. KPI, just want to make it clear, key performance indicator. These are all kind of fall into the branch of metrics. So as I think about this, there are metrics, which represent a numerical understanding of your business. KPI is a subset of that, which are the key indicators that you really pay attention to that are the drivers of your business, or at least measure critical drivers of your business. Metrics in general, but specifically KPIs, allow you to create a shared understanding within your company, not just with the people inside your company, but with investors as well. It's a great way to share with them how your business works. It allows you to effectively communicate internally as well as externally, because right now, you're at the size where you're just figuring stuff out. As you start to scale, you're all going to be the chief communication officer in your company. You're going to be storytellers telling the rest of the organization how this moves forward, how it works. It enables structured thinking and validated learning. So if we think about learning, validated learning, that's derivative from the scientific method, which means we have a hypothesis. If we do this, we expect this result. And by actually measuring the result, you can compare that with the actual, and it's in that gap that creates learning. So critical to understand how your business works. But ultimately what this is about, not an academic exercise, but this is about making progress in your business. How do you grow the thing? How do you make it go to the way you want it?
Cool. So a good place to start. I love the OK Go video. For anybody who hasn't seen their videos, a lot of them are very well worth watching. They have good music, but even better videos in my opinion. But yeah, learning the basics of metrics. So this video will take you through the vocabulary around metrics and will help you understand the metrics you need to track to provide value and grow your business. That's what we're looking for. We'll jump right in.
With the concepts, I'm going to give an overview here and I'm going to give examples. Then, because I believe it's beneficial sometimes to learn not in your domain, is I'm going to give you a car driving example, because my presumption is, especially being in LA, everybody drives, everybody's familiar with cars. And then I'll give a startup example. These are concrete examples from Techstars companies that I've worked with. That includes the 3 classes that I was a part of as an MD team or coach in Boulder, as well as network-wide, a lot of the classes that I've been working with. So first up, actionable versus vanity. So this comes out of the lean startup language. Actionable metric for your car, check engine light goes on. Pretty clear sign, I need to take action on that. I need to do something. A vanity metric is the relative horsepower of your super sport car. This doesn't tell the whole picture. This is for bragging. So you know it's a vanity metric when you're using it to brag. Because in car land, it's not just the horsepower, it's the torque, it's the weight of the car. There's a whole bunch of other factors that indicate performance and handling. In startup land, actionable is number of iOS crash reports per day. So I was working with a company, they were having some quality issues, and that became a KPI that they tracked for a few months to get their quality in order. Total iOS downloads, total vanity. Brag about that does really no good to understanding and making progress within your business. Flow over stock. So a flow metric in car is a rare sight here, but when traffic's moving smoothly, these are things, measurements that you look at over time. Stock metrics are like a parking lot. It's a cumulative metric. So you know it's a stock metric when the number can never go down. Stock metrics are very dangerous to pay attention to in your business because by definition, they only go up and to the right. Even though all of the mechanisms underneath your business may be failing, that number will lead you to think you're making progress. So if we think about this in startup land, daily active users, that's a flow metric. That's over some per unit of time, goes up and down with time. Stock metrics are total user signups. Again, great to brag about, but it doesn't let you really understand how your business is working. We've got qualitative and quantitative metrics. So what's qualitative? Those are the stories. So in this case, this is the text that describes car and driver's test of the BMW M2. So that gives you kind of a feel for what the car is like. And then quantitative are the raw numbers, the metrics. So here you can look at the actual numbers of things. A lot of times we think about in business building that it's only the quantitative metrics that matter, but the qualitative ones are really important too sometimes. An NPS example here, on the qualitative side, the storytelling side, it's really powerful. If somebody gives you a Net Promoter Score of 0, read their feedback. At Rally, when I led the product team, every Net Promoter Score 0, 1, and 10 I would read that came in. And then a quantitative is a 30-day running Net Promoter Score. So the stories as well as the data can be very powerful. Leading and lagging. A leading metric on your car is the gas rangefinder that tells you how much distance you have left before you run out of gas. Not 100% accurate. Mine's at the very beginning tells me about 100 miles more than I actually have, and at the end tells me about 10 less than I actually have, which is probably a good thing. A lagging metric is the trip odometer, how far you've been. So leading indicators or metrics help you see into the future in a way that does have some noise and error into it. Lagging indicators tell you the story about what happened in the past. So if you think about running your business, if you're running your business off of lagging indicators, it's like driving your car looking through the rearview mirror. Leading indicators are like looking out the front of the car. I actually know somebody who can drive pretty effectively looking only out the rearview mirror. It's kind of creepy. As long as the road's straight, you're good, but any turns and you're in trouble. Business is the same way. The thing about startups where you have a huge advantage is larger companies run their company almost exclusively off of lagging metrics. So if you can create, or if some market trend bends the road on them, they're just going to keep going straight. And you can follow the bend in the road because you're looking out the front of the car, not out the back. So if we think about this from a startup standpoint, prospect demos per week, that's a leading indicator potentially of sales. Now, if you're in marketing, because this is all relative, leading and lagging is relative. If you're in marketing, prospect demos per week is actually a lagging indicator of your marketing campaigns. So keep in mind, it's very perspective-based where you're at between leading and lagging. But obviously, prospect demos will come before deals closed per week. So if you want to predict how many deals you're closing this week, some math on your prospect demos will help you build that understanding of your business. Generic, specific, and behavioral. So as we think about this, metrics can fall into these different camps, different classifications. So in a car, a generic metric is the speedometer. Every single car has a speedometer in it, so you can know how fast you're going. A specific measurement in your car related to gas cars, not electric, is the oil temperature. And then behavioral is if you put one of those computer dongles into your car, it can tell you if you're braking fast, if you're accelerating hard. So it can give you all these behavioral statistics around your business. So the startup equivalent is a generic metric is available cash. Now, any of you that are close to running out of money know that this doesn't mean just because it's lagging or a generic metric that it's not a valuable metric. Because if you're getting close to running out of cash, available cash is a KPI you should pay a lot of attention to. But it's generic. Every company in the land has one of those. Monthly recurring revenue, that's specific to term-based businesses, so recurring revenue type businesses. And then behavioral is something very specific to your company. So one of the companies that I was working with out of the Chicago program, one of their key metrics they really paid attention to, their workflow system, was number of hours saved per workflow that was instantiated in their customer's environment. So that let them understand that the product wasn't just being used, but it was valuable to the organization, to their customer. So again, it doesn't mean that one of these is better than the other, but it helps you understand the nuance of your business. One of my favorites, correlation and causation. So we are meaning-making machines, which means that if we see the data, a near perfect correlation between import oil from Norway and cars getting run down by trains, near perfect correlation. Now our brains will jump to the fact that, oh, that's causality. Telling myself the story, that means we're using more oil, it means we're driving more. The more we drive, we get hit by trains more. Maybe, maybe not. Causality is if I turn my blinker on, the light flashes next to my speedometer. I caused that to happen. So in startup land, a correlation could be Facebook spend and signups. A lot of you will think the more we spend on Facebook, the more signups we get. A lot of you have data that that's true. One of the companies that I was working with, they believed that was true. So they ran a test. The hypothesis was if we spend more on Facebook, our signups will go up, 10% more on Facebook, 10% more signups. They ran the test and got about, not quite, they got about 5% more. And they were like, awesome, correlation there. And then they dug into the data and they realized that when they ran the campaign, they actually screwed up. And they stopped their Facebook spend. And their signups went up 5%. No correlation between Facebook spending. So that wanders more into causality, which is, in this example, there was a company that was trying to get an increase in day one signups of their mobile app. They ran an experiment where they put an in-app guide in to try to up the conversion rate on day one. So they ran that with a subset of their market. They got the hypothesis came true. Then they turned it off, came back down within baseline, turned it back on, came back up. So they were able to do a cause and effect test on that. There's a little trick that can help you, because we're all storytelling machines, to help you check in on, are we in correlation here or causation? Because causation is a gold standard. Like, you want to know, if we do this over here in our business, this great thing's going to happen over here. But it takes a long time to get there. The trick with correlation is if you look at it and flip the order and it still makes sense, you probably have correlation. We'll go back to this one as an example. So if the correlation, you could say, if we import more crude oil, do train accidents go up? Okay, that makes sense. Train accidents go up means we import more crude oil. Maybe, maybe not, but it's coherent. It sort of makes sense. That's when you know you have correlation. Causation is, if you do the same standard, I turn the turn signal on, the light blinks, that causes that. Light blinks, I turn the turn signal on. Does that make any sense in your car? So in that case, you know you have potential for causality there because it doesn't make sense the other direction. So you're looking for what's called the arrow of direction or arrow of correlation or causality, ultimately in your business. But early on, all you have is stuff that, well, these seem to happen together. and it's a mystery why, and that's part of entrepreneurship, is digging in and understanding why.
Really interesting. I love that he gave the example of how to determine between correlation and causation, because I know that can always be pretty difficult to actually determine, is this a correlation or is this actually caused by this? So when you know, you know. Cool. Moving right along, understand your business through metrics. There are metrics that most every other business uses, and then there are those that help you grow. This video will help you make sense of the metrics that are central to accounting, investors, and to managing. These are powerful ways to think about metrics as a company. Cool, so we're gonna get a bit of a baseline here. Again, guys, if you do have questions, type them into the chat. Pretty straightforward so far though, so we'll just keep moving right along.
KPI dynamics. How do these fit together? How do we think about KPIs in a larger way? There's kind of two axes I'm going to build here. The three things I talked about: generic, specific behavioral on one side, and then leading to lagging on the other. So again, I talked about leading to lagging is based on your perspective. It's not like it's an absolute. There's a continuum here. There's also a continuum on the generic, the specific, and the behavioral. That's a continuum too. So there's a powerful way you start to think about metrics in your company, and I'll talk about when you're in investor meetings. You can learn a lot about an investor based on the questions they ask on this schematic here. There's a zone here of your metrics or KPIs if you plot them against these two axes. In the bottom right here are accounting KPIs. These are the easy ones to come to because they're generic, they're common to every company in the land, and they tend to be very lagging indicators. So an example of that is cash balance. Every company in the land has a cash balance, and it's the most lagging indicator possible for your business. A lot of companies will say, we need to up the cash balance. There's a couple ways to do that. You can bring in more revenue from customers, you could raise more money from investors, but ultimately, just because you need more cash doesn't mean it will give you answers about how to raise money or how to bring more money in from customers. But it is a powerful KPI, especially if you're running low on cash. Next, there tends to be this kind of region of investor KPIs. Now we're starting to get more specific into your business, and we're getting more into leading indicators of how your business is working. So if we think about cash balance, months of burn is your burn rate. Cash balance, burn rate, gives you the months of burn. So that's a little bit more of a leading indicator. You're looking a little bit more out into the future. MRR, again, more of a leading indicator, but now specific to your business. Daily active users, that's another example here. So these are questions that often investors will ask you about. There's another zone here, which is management KPIs. And this is the zone that's really important to get into as you operate your business. It's going to be super easy and very obvious to pick all of the accounting KPIs for your business. Please avoid that. It's okay to pick kind of in the investor zone. You should have answers there. Initially, it's okay to operate your business with an understanding just at that level. But ultimately, what you want to get to is an understanding of your business where you can figure your business out based on the management KPIs. So in this case, it's an example of a company that's a photo sharing company. A leading indicator is impressions per day. So that's more of a marketing, but it's still pretty generic because most companies, when they're doing kind of lead-based generation, are going to have some kind of impression metric. Way up there in the behavioral is, they noticed that on the 7th picture that somebody added, their likelihood of staying on the site grew dramatically. So the KPI that they realized was new users, how fast can we get them to posting that 7th picture? That drove a bunch of behavior within the company because they knew once you got the sign up to that point, the likelihood of them sticking was so much higher. So this gives you an example of various spots that you can put probes into your business to understand, measure, and drive progress. Initially, you may only have the accounting ones. You may have guesses at this investor zone, but ultimately the goal here is to understand your business to the point where you can build metrics and have visibility into your business up into that management KPI zone.
Really interesting. And guys, I know potentially the quality of that chart wasn't the best, but what I will say is that on the exercises following this, it does have the entire chart so you can see everything afterwards a bit clearer and read into it a bit more, because I know it's pretty dense. It's a lot of information in one time to kind of understand that entire chart. But the idea of it is you're pushing towards the management KPIs, so the things that are more behavioral and leading. Essentially, you're trying to predict things up front that are not too generic. So you want to be ahead of the game. Makes sense, but it's just something, it's a really good way of kind of laying it out and thinking about KPIs as you start to go down this road. So next section, review metrics to make progress. You want to have your key performance indicators, KPIs, drive your behavior and your understanding of how your business works. One of the most powerful ways to make sure your company benefits from these KPIs is to have weekly check-ins with your team and investors to share good news, review goals, review KPIs, and clear any issues that may arise. What I will say, in keeping with the idea that this isn't necessarily just applicable to businesses, if you're setting up weekly check-ins for yourself, for whatever it is that you're working on, or with a group of people, whatever it is that you're working on, regardless of it being a business, I think this can still apply over. If you're down that line of thinking, stay with us. So we'll jump right in.
A lot of people think, okay, as long as I just have KPIs, we're golden. That's just part one. Part two is checking in on the KPIs. Because ultimately what you want to do is have the KPIs drive your behavior and drive your understanding of how the business works. So if you're not checking in on them, they're just kind of these cute things you hang on the wall, or they're the things you send out every month in your investor update. What I really encourage you to do is a weekly ops review. This may be one of the most powerful meetings you can set up in your company. The agenda that I like is the simplest agenda that works, because I like figuring out the minimum effective dose instead of the maximum dose. It's like, what's the minimum thing that will make a huge impact for you? Just do this. Start the meeting out, gather. Initially, it's your whole company. Eventually, it'll be kind of the decision makers, span of control, sphere of influence people in your company. That's the fun of scaling, is you get to have that bicker about who gets to be in a meeting and not. Enjoy it while you're small in a startup that you don't have that issue. Start out with good news, because the goal of this meeting, once you get past good news, is productive paranoia. Productive is an important word there. Not just paranoia about all of the things that could kill you, productive paranoia, which is what are the things we should be concerned about and how do we take action on them right now. Good news is important, because that productive paranoia may make the rest of the meeting seem kind of sour because you're hand-wringing about stuff. Go around the table, have each person just say something great that happened either in the company or in their personal life. It's a great way to make a little connection. It's really important to review your goals, because goals and KPIs are not the same thing. They're linked together in an important way. So review your goals. How'd you do on those? Review your KPIs. How did they move? Now, if you notice here, if you're reviewing your KPIs every week, if you pick lagging indicators, it'll become apparent pretty quickly, because over a span of a week, they won't move. And you're like, well, 42 is still the number on that KPI. If you're picking leading indicators, they will move each week. So that's a good way to check in on. And when you review your KPIs, you're not just reviewing how are the KPI, how are the numbers doing, you're also checking in on, is this the right way to measure our business? Because let's say something goes really wrong in your business and all the KPIs were showing everything's great. That's a great chance to reflect on, is this the right KPI? Or if something great happens in your business and the KPIs don't move, another chance to reflect on, do we have the right KPIs in our business? And then really important part of productive paranoia, and this is the productive part, is clear the issues. Pure paranoia is worry. Productive paranoia is where you actually take action on it. So before people get up out of that meeting, understand what are the issues, potentially have a discussion on them while everybody's there. So don't call a meeting to have a meeting later. Clear it right there. Figure out who's responsible for it. And the cool thing about doing this every week is the default is you will report back or tell us a story next week of what happened as you cleared that issue this week. So there's this built-in weekly accountability into the heartbeat cadence of these meetings. Some things the issues may be strong enough that you can't move them to the following week. So in that case, who's got the action item and when are they going to tell the story back out to that group about how it's progressing? Simple. 4 agenda items, super, super powerful meeting. When I was at Rally, we grew from 0 to successful IPO. This was the backbone cadence of our company. Initially, we had almost everybody in the meeting when we were 12 people. And when we were public and 600 people, we had 35, 40 people in this meeting. And it's not like it's a 5-hour meeting. So one of the ways to think about this is this cadence, these meetings are a way to invest in your success. So if we do just kind of a line item here, we talked about stand-ups in another session, about just very quickly getting together, clearing issues. So let's say that takes 15 minutes a day. I encourage a half-hour ops review. These do not need to be an hour long at this size. As you get bigger, sometimes they get to be an hour. But even when we were 600 people in public, we would get through that part of the meeting in 25 minutes. Complete review of every bit of functional bit in the company in 25 minutes. Retrospectives and weekly planning. When you think about working on the company versus in the company, so on is where you're improving the company, working in the company is just busy doing things. If you install all of this, you're investing about 5% of your time in the sort of weekly heartbeat. The monthly heartbeat adds in strategic planning, which I'll talk about tomorrow in goal setting. That'll up you to about 7%. And then if you do a yearly cadence where you're including quarterly offsites, generally that's just initially the founding team, executive team. Ultimately, you're getting to a point where if you do this well, you're investing about 8.7% of your time making sure the company runs really well.
Really interesting there, and yeah, Lauren, I agree. Those are some really good agenda headings. What I'd encourage you guys to do is you can either check back on this video or go back into the video at some point and just look at those kind of breakdown of the different meeting styles and exactly like how often you might have those meetings. It's a good way to think about how to structure your meetings, whether you're a company or you're a person and you're just looking at trying to check in on yourself. How often and how you check in on those things are really important. But as he mentioned, he's going to talk a bit more about those sort of things in goal setting. I think that is the session for tomorrow. I'll check back at the end of this, but there will be a further session down the road where we'll go a bit more into that. So without further ado, we're going to go into evolve the metrics you track. So you need to identify 2 or 3 measurable KPIs that matter to your business today. This video will help your team identify growth and value KPIs through the exploration of what your customers experience. So again, it's drawing on a lot of the stuff that we started out with in some of the earlier sessions. What is your customer's experience? What are your customers' needs? What are the features, benefits to them? How is that going to connect into the metrics that you're going to track to try and progress whatever it is that you're working on? So we'll go right ahead.
Buy-in on KPIs within the organization. How do you fast track that?
So usually within startups, buy-in is a pretty easy thing to get because you're all pretty vested in it. You may get to the point where there's a debate, is it this KPI or that KPI? What I encourage you to do is focus with the conviction to change. It's really, really alluring at this stage of your company to say, I'm just going to like bomb a floodlight out into the market. I'm going to bomb a floodlight out into all of the metrics that are going on in our company. I'm going to have a dashboard with 100 metrics on it. Like, I rock at this. That's not focus. So in doing that, you're hoping that what will come back is like, if I shine a big enough light, something will flash in the distance and like I'll go respond to that. The trick is to shine a bunch of lasers in. Because the problem with the floodlight is if something reflects back at you, you have no idea why. One of the CEOs that I used to work for, he said that it's awesome to have a company that's working and you know why. It's awful to have a company that's not working and you don't know why. It's really bad to have a company that's working and you don't know why. And so the trick with shining this floodlight in is you can have a company that's working and you won't know why. And then there's a lot of expectation like, well, hey, it's working. Here's a big pile of money. Go crank the knob up and give me a bunch of money back as an investor. And you're like, oh, I don't know how this thing works. It's just making money. And so that pressure can be really challenging. KPIs are the same way. If you have 100 KPIs, because it will be easy to avoid that conversation narrowing in on one by just saying, oh, sure, yeah, let's monitor that too. Ah, yeah, let's monitor that too. And next thing you know, you wake up and you have 100 KPIs. That's not the way to do it. The way I encourage you to do it is say, okay, here are candidate KPIs. Let's laser focus on these for the next week, next month. Let's see if we put structured energy into moving them. Do they move? Does it move our business forward and make progress? If your business is stagnant and your KPIs are stagnant, you're just kind of in a murky place. If your business is failing and your KPIs are going up, then you ask yourself the question, okay, did I just land on a leading KPI and things are going to be good later? Or if there's no correlation there between the energy you're putting in and those metrics moving, it's the wrong metric. So focus, but with the ability to commit to a new one quickly is what I would encourage you to do to build consensus around what are the right things to monitor. And you may realize that, oh, we're monitoring 3 here, that really this behavioral leading indicator is the one we really care about. Let's ignore the other 2. So you'll kind of narrow it down over time. But that's part of the numerical understanding of your business. It's messy at first, just like what you're doing. It's messy. Like probably most of you sitting here are like, yeah, this is messy. I wish I could turn the switch on and the light would go on, but it doesn't work that way. I have to like do a voodoo dance in the corner and eventually the light goes on. It's just messy. And then the KPIs will help you get clarity around that.
That was really good. So it's the idea of like it's the same as any sort of startup process. It's looking at it as try a few KPIs that you think might influence your business, test, iterate, see if they work for you. If they work for you, wonderful, run with those KPIs. If they don't, okay, adapt and see what's actually going to help meaningfully improve your business. It's an iterative process. So now we have part 6. What I will say is after part 6, we have part 7, which is a bit longer. So it's going to be an example of all of this in practice and an exercise. I'm going to see based on time how we do. We'll probably go through it regardless, but just to give you guys a heads up on how we're doing. So trust your gut. Entrepreneurship is a blend of art and science. In some instances, you won't have data science to show you where to go, and you simply have to trust your gut. KPIs can create a numerical baseline to your gut responses. This video will help you think through ways to get the easiest and fastest measurements that you can use as evidence. So we're going to select our KPIs. Here we go.
KPIs is, that one that you put up there. You do X action 7 times, and we've discovered once this person does that retention goes up through the roof, or that referrals go up through the roof, and that really drives the business. Or discovering those when you're a startup with 2 or 3 people, and you might not have like the data science background to do that analysis feasible, or is that something you can kind of do once you start to grow a little bit and grow out your team?
Yeah, there's the data science background of it. One of the key aspects in my mind of entrepreneurship is it's this really unique blend of art and science. And so what I'm teaching you is a little bit of the science behind the scientific method, how metrics work, the science of company building, and there's a ton of art to it too. So all of you, specifically the founders, have this gut feeling about which direction to take your business. So it's really easy early on, and it's actually a very effective method, which is just trust your gut. Just go with where your gut says. KPIs are a way to add a little bit of numerical evidence to your gut. Because if you look at the science behind improving your gut reaction to things, is a very important part is the feedback loop of my gut told me to do this. What's the data coming back that shows that that was actually right? So if you cut yourself off from feedback, your gut intuitions will never improve. So it's a balance between the two. So what I encourage you to do early on, like if you're at a point where you're like, I don't know, there's no science here, there's no rule book, there's no map, I don't know. Trust your gut, go with your gut, then ask yourself what's the easiest, fastest way to measure that so I can just get a little bit of data back about how well that worked, and then it's just continual cycles like that. So as a startup, the faster you can make those cycles, the better. You can do 10 of those cycles, 100 of those cycles a week, I've seen some companies do. Big companies, they do maybe 2 of those a quarter. So if you're in a market that's changing quickly, you have a dramatic, if you get good at this, you have a dramatic advantage over incumbent companies. Now they're big, they're strong, they can throw tons of money at something, but if a market's moving and you follow that movement, you can respond in a way that no other big company can.
Very cool. So the goal is to set the KPIs. Now, guys, like this is the workshop. I am just gonna check here. Yeah, it's about 20 minutes long. So this is gonna be the actual active workshop on how you can apply this. It's gonna use an example on how to apply this. We're gonna go through it. It'll probably take us just past the hour, just so you have context for how long it's gonna be. And just after that, we will do the free pizza giveaway. So it's worth hanging out for that. But if you leave and just appear at the end, I will know. And you will not win your pizza if you are interested in that. But anyway, we'll go through it now. Find your KPIs workshop. This video will take you through an example of mapping the customer experience up to the moment of transaction, and then how to plot the metrics for growth and value KPIs that teams can measure and monitor. Cool. Let's jump into it. And again, guys, you can comment in the chat. As I said, welcome to everybody who's just jumping in, and we'll go forward.
We're going to go through the process of finding the KPIs that matter for your company. How will we prepare? You need 2 to 3 colors of sticky notes. So if you are direct to a customer, 2 sticky notes are probably fine. If you're an indirect customer, like a B to B to C or some kind of indirect, you'll want 3 colors because you're actually going to have to be paying attention not to your customer, but to your customer's customer, because that matters too in your business. Get a whiteboard, get a surface, a wall, a door, anything that a sticky note can stick to. And we're going to go through and first start out by revealing how a customer is made within your company. So first thing, you basically write down $ signs and you stick it on the whiteboard. Because ultimately, every successful business is going to have money somewhere in the customer's journey. If it doesn't, congratulations, you're running a hobby, and that will come to an end fairly soon. So you ultimately have to find a place where money comes in the door. So start there. If you're pre-product, pre-revenue, welcome to the land of guessing. You're going to be guessing about a lot of this stuff, but it's super important for you to articulate your guesses. The number one way I see founding teams struggle pre-product, pre-revenue is a basic fundamental misunderstanding among the founders of who the customer is and what journey that customer takes on the road to giving you money. So once you have the dollars up there, ask yourself the question, what does the customer experience immediately preceding paying us money? This isn't what you do, this is what your customers experience. So throughout all of this, it's going to be super tempting to say, oh, what do we do next? Please don't do that. Reframe it as, what is our customer experience? Write those on the stickies. You can draw arrows that say this leads into that. Then you'll see a bunch, the next thing is, okay, what happens before that? So as you see here, we're kind of building out maybe the front end of the funnel, the channel side of this, what happens to the customer as they come in to give us money. After they pay you money, they presumably are going to experience at least product in their hands, the value that you promised them. But there may be other things that they're experiencing. Then you may bounce back all the way to the front end and go, like, what are all the things the customers are doing before they even know we're here? Like, what prompts their problem? What's the situation they're in that makes them think, there's got to be a better way than this, to then look to you for an answer. And then there may be a viral or referral piece of your business, so you want to make sure and capture that. So the customers may experience, like that top line, referring you to a friend. Again, it's not what's going on in your world, it's what's going on in their world. Then we think about what are the spots along this journey where the customer is gaining the most value, and how do we measure what's going on inside the company as a proxy to the value that our customers are getting. So these are the value KPIs. It's important to start with value KPIs. So if you have to get one of these right, initially get the value KPI right, because if you're not building a valuable business, it's going to be super hard to grow that business. Then ask yourself the question, assuming we have value here, where are our growth KPIs? Where are we going to measure that we're able to more effectively bring people into the fold? And then ultimately pick the 2 or 3 KPIs that you want to track and pay attention to during Techstars. So these are the things that you're going to watch to help you understand, communicate, build shared understanding around the progress you're making while you're in Techstars. One of these may be what you put up on the demo day traction slide, but I encourage you don't only have that one up there, because that will kind of generally fall into that investor bucket. To the extent possible, try to get some understanding up into that behavioral leading section, the management KPIs. Okay, so I'd like to introduce you to Jack. Jack sells lemonade at his lemonade stand. Now notice Jack takes Bitcoin, which is your first clue that Jack is not a normal 9-year-old. He's actually, this is when he was 9, I think he's 11 now. This is a picture I took when he came into Techstars Boulder and set up his lemonade stand and sold lemonade to us during program. And then we invited him into our pitch practice. And it was one of the earlier pitch practices. He gets up and does a spot perfect, it was a little long for Techstars standards, 9-minute, fully memorized, no flaws pitch of his business. And he really humbled some of the CEOs, because you're right in that spot where you'll experience this, where you're in pitch practice and you're like, oh, for the love of all sanity, make this stop. I just can't do this anymore. That's sort of right when we intentionally brought him in. And he just nailed it. There's another kind of interesting wrinkle to Jack's business, though. which is I'd like to introduce you to Jack's customer. This is not someone drinking lemonade. Jack's customer is another kid who wants to sell lemonade. So he has a turnkey franchise operation, I'm not joking, where kids come in, they go onto Jack's website, they sign up for his stand, it comes with lemonade, it comes with everything. He helps the kids understand profit and loss. He does a revenue share with them, so he shows them how to set it up, he shows them how to run it. Then he goes away, they run the stand, he comes back, he teaches them how to close the books, does all of this. There's another piece of Jack that's a little bit unique, which is, yes, Jack was on the tank. So let's learn a little bit more about Jack's business from Jack's own words.
Next into the tank is a kid entrepreneur who wants to help other kids fulfill their entrepreneurial aspirations.
Hi Sharks, my name is Jack Bonneau. I'm the founder and CEO of Jack's Stands and Marketplaces, and I'm from Denver, Colorado.
Hi Sharks, I'm Steve Bonneau. I'm Jack's dad. I work for Jack.
Sharks, I'm seeking $50,000 in exchange for 10% of my company. I'm 10 years old, but when I was 8 years old, I really wanted a Lego set, but it cost $400. The good news was my dad said I could have it.
But he'd have to pay for it with his own money.
So, I did what most of you probably would do. I started my own lemonade stand. After 12 weeks, I made $900 after expenses.
Wow.
Learned some valuable lessons, and yes, I got my Lego Death Star. The experience is exactly why I created Jack's Stands and Marketplaces. Jack's Stands and Marketplaces provides kids and their families opportunities to learn about entrepreneurship, business, financial literacy, while having fun and making some money. We provide everything except their mood and their enthusiasm. Jack's Stands offers kids the opportunity to sell lemonade and other drinks. We offer kids the opportunity to sell more than just lemonade. Jack's Marketplaces provides young entrepreneurs the opportunity to sell their products in authentic and great marketplaces and have kids sell those great products and tell the inspirational stories of these young entrepreneurs.
So Sharks, our challenge and question to you is, who wants to make money?
While inspiring our nation's youth in entrepreneurship.
So what we're going to do here is go through and model what you'll be doing for your business, but we're first going to start out with Jack's business. We'll do this kind of as an interactive session here. All right, so yes, Jack makes money. It was kind of funny when he did his pitch at Techstars, about half our companies at that time were pre-revenue. So when Jack got done, I whispered to him, like, you're making more money than about half the companies in this room. Another good way to fire up entrepreneurs. Okay, so Jack makes money. What do Jack's customers experience immediately before they pay Jack money?
They want to buy Lego sets.
Okay, so they have some kind of need. So that probably happens kind of actually more kind of over here. Excitement. Excitement, okay. Maybe that's kind of around in here, let's say. Okay, what else? What happens right before Jack makes money?
They're convinced that they need to start their own gigs to make money.
So they want to start a business?
They probably talk to Jack.
Okay. They actually end up, I'm going to modify that, because I did mention Jack's not your normal 11-year-old. He has a website that's pretty turnkey, so you go to Jack's website and sign up there. He takes money, takes Bitcoin, obviously. Okay. So on the website, they look at price.
They realize that it's easy enough for them to do.
Okay.
They have to convince their parents to pay for it.
There you go. So maybe that's over here. I'll move this here. That was actually the answer I was trying to guide you toward, which is in order for Jack to get paid, somebody's got to put a credit card in. I'll give you a little hint here too, because Jack's pretty smart. He actually makes money at 2 different points in this transaction. So I'll put another dollar sign up there. So he does a revenue share. So what is the customer experience?
Agree to a contract.
Okay, so there's a contract.
Customer has to make a sale first.
Yep, so they've got to make a sale.
Some training involved.
Yep, the customer's experience with training.
Customer has to pay Jack.
Yeah, so there's this credit card, and then over here, there's the split at the end of the day. Believe Jack takes 50%?
No.
He makes some pretty good coin here. Lots of Lego sets now. Okay, what else does the customer experience?
Customer needs to learn what revenue sharing is.
Okay. I'll capture that as rev share ups and downs. You mean I worked all day and I gave you half my money? So maybe that comes after sharing the transaction, the money.
There's probably some kind of commercial.
Okay.
Some kind of video that people are watching.
Jack has a really good PR team. He was on the Today Show. He's been our local paper a ton. So yeah, kind of down here maybe there's a commercial that gets them excited.
Investment anxiety for the customer.
Okay.
For the investor.
There needs to be some kind of convincing of the parents and some kind of angle.
Yeah, so there's kind of the Ask Parent. He's got a separate part of his website that's all geared toward that. So maybe there's some anxiety kind of around here. So let's.
Training.
What's up?
Training.
Yeah, so when he comes right here, he shows up and trains them how. Now he provides all the lemonade, all the cups, all the ice. He rents the permits for the farmers markets and the spaces and things like this. So if you think about his cost of goods, the 50% doesn't seem quite as loan sharky, but it's still a lot.
How does he find his kids?
Yeah, so if we think of the front end of the funnel, the question is, how do you find the customer? So what's the experience of the customer coming in? So he's got commercials. He's got, yeah, the tank was good. Yes, so there's customers.
Oh yeah. Customers of customers.
Yes, so that's a good place to switch now. So because Jack is indirect, his customers have customers. So let's spend just like 1 or 2 sessions here on what have Jack's customers experience. Because now this may actually be a little bit easier because now you can put yourself in the mindset of not a franchisee or somebody renting a lemonade stand, but just somebody buying lemonade. So what does that experience look like?
It's a really well-oiled lemonade machine or stack.
Yeah.
Replicated on. Yeah, they like it. They see it. They're like, wow, this thing's really together. Like,
Okay.
They're like, this thing is a legit lemonade stand.
They're thirsty.
The brand, positive brand.
Okay, so it's maybe after kind of over here, because this is now where he's actually selling lemonade. So the customer comes up, he's like, wow, this is legit. Okay, what else?
If you're in Boulder or LA, it needs to be organic maybe. And
Yep.
taste good.
So how does the customer experience that? It's like, it's good lemonade? Okay.
It's gotta taste good and see the sun.
Customer might not have cash. So you have to deal with that.
Yep.
The customer's need, is it seasonal?
Yep, so in Colorado, it's seasonal. So how would you like me to capture that up here?
He sells more than lemonade. Other products as well.
Okay.
That's a choice, maybe.
So again, that's inward to Jack. So now how do his customers or his customers' customers experience that?
Desire for lemonade.
Okay, so we've got like, location plays a big part of this. So we'll kind of leave that kind of over in here. There's,
Feel good thing, right? Yeah. Adults.
yeah,
Yeah, the customers are like, this is really cute and funny. I should buy something.
Yep.
I'm amused. It's almost like entertainment.
so there's maybe kind of a feels good here, which is part of that referral loop. You already talked about it, which is maybe the customer says, hey, I want to sign up for this. And that's now that part of that viral referral loop that comes in. So this shows us how to map your customer journey. And then if you have a customer's customer like Jack does, you can start mapping a little bit of Jack's customer's journey. So now let's focus on value KPIs. So now instead of thinking about the customer, now we would turn inward into Jack. How does Jack know he's running a valuable business? What would he measure to give him some indications that he's running a valuable business?
Making money.
So money, yep, ultimate lagging indicator.
Number of franchisees.
Okay. Number of franchisees.
Number of new sign-up franchisees.
Okay, so that'll kind of come in here. Signups was, that kind of comes in here before the contract.
Views on the website.
Views on the website, yep. So here, referral rate.
Percentage of franchises who stay in business.
So repeat customers, okay.
I was going to say conversion rate, like conversion to sell to buy the franchise.
Okay, so conversion rate. Again, if we think of flow metrics, how do we make that like by channel or by some period of time?
Well, however often they're doing KPIs, maybe like weekly or monthly.
So conversions by channel per week, does that work?
Sure.
Cool.
Seasonally too.
Yeah, so there's a seasonal component to this, which is,
But if
you
he's
may,
on Shark Tank, it's not seasonal anymore, because he must have got people from all over the country calling him.
yeah, he's actually figured out a way to sort of franchise the franchise. But yeah, seasonality does play a role in, his marketing campaigns and other things. It's funny, he does follow line tracking too. If you go to his website, I noticed as I was going to other websites, like his ads were following me around. I'm like, this kid's legit.
What's the churn rate? These
Okay.
kids probably have soccer
Churn.
practice, so like who's managing the stands where?
Yep, so there may be churn rate. That kind of is probably when they feel the revenue split, churn rate may be a good place to measure that.
Number of vendors who want to sell their products at his stands.
Okay, so
All of those vendors.
all right, number of vendors at his marketplace stands, because he actually gets revenue from that. Okay.
Do you know how far he's gotten with the marketplace model? And how big of a business it is for him?
Yeah, so the question was for the, where's he gotten to? I noticed that he just, one of the organic juice companies, I don't know if they acquired him or hired him or if it's a PR stunt, but he's now representing them. And so when he linked into me a couple weeks ago, I was like, oh, hey, new title. It's not Jack Stands anymore. He's like an ambassador for some organic juice company. Okay, so this is a good way. So now we've mapped out Jack's customer's journey. We've mapped out Jack's customer's journey where it matters. We've identified some KPIs. So now what do you think the top value KPI, if you were Jack, that you think you should be paying attention to? Of all of these yellow sticky notes up here, what are ones that you think from a value standpoint, like how best should he monitor and measure the value he's creating for his customers?
Referral rate.
Okay. So referral rate.
Repeat customers.
Okay, repeat customers.
Churn rate.
So money here, churn rate. Okay, cool. So now we think about growth. How should Jack measure if he should throw more money into marketing, throw more money into the channel?
Signups.
Okay, signups, pretty clear one. Are there leading indicators he should be paying attention to on growth?
Overall overall growth in leads.
Okay, growth in leads. I actually like this conversions by channel.
Yeah.
That tends to be a really powerful leading indicator growth metric for consumer-based businesses. Okay, so now we've got some of these. This gives Jack a chance when he's running his business, he's doing his weekly ops review, he can now build the numbers around here. There's another important point of this, which is, are these even measurable? So you may get into these KPIs and Jack, or you could realize, oh wow, we have no way to measure that right now. That's fine. Note that as an aspiration and then ask yourself, okay, what can we measure today? Because I don't want you to spend like 5 weeks figuring out how to measure all this stuff and you make no progress, you just figure out how to instrument your company. Not in this environment. The key thing here is figure out the minimum effective dose that you can do tomorrow and start doing it lightly, review every week.
Very cool. I am inspired by Jack, and I would love to start one of his lemonade stands. I see Margaret is inspired as well. So, guys, like that is one of the best exercises I have seen for how to kind of map your company, and especially mapping it to what the customer gets value out of, and how you can then grow your business off of providing more value, and with the specific KPIs that are flow KPIs that are actually going to change over time, not just those vanity metrics. So quickly, before we dive into the spin the wheel for pizza, I am just going to go through the worksheet and just show you it's really just mirroring what we went through. Here are kind of all of the list of the different types of KPIs. So if you want to look into them and understand them a bit more deeply, you can go in. And then, yeah, it's a long list, a lot of KPIs. And then it's the instructions on how to actually do the exercise that he laid out there. So direct, you're putting Post-its on the board, starting the moment of a transaction. What are our direct customer experiences leading up to the transaction? Those are growth KPIs. What are our indirect customer experiences leading up to the transaction. That is the also growth KPIs. And then what we can measure to know we are running a valuable business. Those are the value KPIs. So I think this is the type of thing that once you start to implement it or give a shot at it, you learn a bit more about your business regardless of how it's implemented. It's an exercise that I think you can do a number of times over time. As you begin to understand your business better, you're going to adapt. These KPIs, the key performance indicators, are going to change over time. As you understand what's going to impact your business more and more, it's going to change and you're going to change in time, which is where having those regular meetings I think fits really well. If you look back at that, you can see. I'll just go down to the end here. This is just another map, as I said before, of the lagging, leading, generic to behavioral KPIs, so you can understand where your different performance indicators will fall. And then you go down to the bottom, it's just the kind of wrap up. So yeah, I see Linda said there, it's very interesting, a lot to take in. I think I'll need to watch a few times. Absolutely. This is my second time going through it, and I still think there's more that I can take from it, but that's the purpose of this. If you guys take something from it and want to follow up with me, I do have the one-to-one mentorship sessions. You're welcome to book in with me. Through the Tangent website, you can do that. That's easy enough.